basking in it for the last 30 minutes. My God, I feel like a seafront village after the Vikings have left.
And that starts with the person who created Indiana Jones, George Lucas. The person who is Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford. And the person who is the glue to all 5 of these films that gave us all of our rhythm and all of our melody, the great maestro, John Williams.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is as close to seeing Kennedy publicly fired as we'll ever get. Steven Spielberg, probably with the agreement of Bob Iger, Alan Bergman, and of course his, I think, partner in crime there, Harrison Ford, basically shunned Kathleen Kennedy and her husband, Frank Marshall, from Hollywood forever on the stage at the Indiana Jones 5 premiere. And I think the one thing that civilians who've never worked in any kind of politics and business is politics hate is the lack of transparency and the bullshit passive aggressiveness that goes on when movers and shakers get themselves into trouble. Okay, we know that both of these people have a shady past with Spielberg anyway, and after all was said and done, they left the partnership with him from Amblin, but still did some things separately on Jurassic Park with him, and of course Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Crystal Skull. However, when Spielberg did what he did publicly not too long ago, 2 months ago, it was pretty much a message that Hollywood needs to wash their hands of these two people. And it's passive aggressive, like I said. And I think the audience, the fans, need a direct mention, an obvious refutation that's public concerning Lucasfilm, Star Wars, and Kennedy's malfeasance and incompetent leadership. And a lot of people didn't realize what Spielberg did to her, and still don't, okay? They still think she's the tits. So let me give you an analogy. So this is Seth Rich. Seth Rich was murdered in, I think, June of 2016, before the election, by somebody on the street by his house, and it wasn't a mugging. All of his belongings were still on him. So it's almost as though it was an assassination. And we came to find out throughout the ordeal that Seth Rich was giving the DNC emails that Julian Assange and his project were putting out there in the public. And Assange said it was Seth Rich doing it. And the people that we think were involved with his murder went back to their home country. They were not, they were here, they're not native-born Americans. And anything that had to do with the Seth Rich murder has been swept under the rug. And at the time, Rich's boss was Congresswoman from Florida, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Okay, very publicly outspoken, a pain in the ass, not attractive at all. When you see her, it looks like she hasn't washed her hair in 55 years. I don't know what she puts in it, but there she is, screaming. And after Rich was murdered, Debbie basically disappeared from the public view. In fact, I had forgotten about her, but she still is Congresswoman for her district. She's a dependable vote for Steny Hoyer or Jeffries and the Democrats. She's just not a public figure anymore, kind of. Why? They disappeared her because she had something to do with the murder of Seth Rich. How do I know this is how politicians do things when they're outspoken in public? Because I saw it firsthand. This is me, my natural hair color, and my boss, Dick Armey, when I was a congressional staffer. When you have to remember, though, it only works one way. Anthony Weiner publicly humiliated. Okay, a liability in the long run. Mark Foley, for the Republican Party, was run out of Dodge because of his messing around with the male congressional pages. He's a Republican. All right, Nancy Pelosi put that story in the newspapers September before the 2006 election. Okay, and Foley was run out of Dodge. Now, look at Debbie Wasserman Schultz and the analogy of what's going on with Kennedy will become clear. Okay, Debbie Wasserman Schultz was a liability, and her being in the public eye would have brought more scrutiny to the death of Seth Rich. By removing her, because look, all this shit happened under her watch. They couldn't outright throw her to the wolves like Anthony Weiner, but they could remove her from her leadership position and turn her back into an anonymous congresswoman, and that's what they did. And she has not rehabbed herself since. Okay, she has got the death of Seth Rich hanging over her head. All right, she wasn't fired like Mark Foley was because she knows too much. She was too connected. This is what we are led to believe, we think, is going on as to why Kathleen Kennedy is leaving Hollywood, according to the Five Horsemen, selling her house and fleeing the country, because though she could be fired for cause, but not really because of her fucking contract, she may have committed felonies. What kind of precedent would it set for the rest of Hollywood? And this is why the fans and people hate politics in general, because there should be transparency. We should know what's really going on. And the fact of the matter is, her allowing to keep her presidency of Lucasfilm till her contract is over. And you know, this I'm going to give you a hint. This is why I left politics, because it happens in politics. Debbie Wasserman Schultz should probably be in jail, but you got to keep her congressional seat. Kathleen Kennedy gets to technically be the president of Lucasfilm while being in exile, while not having any control over it, while not being allowed on the campus anywhere. Okay, and there's no transparency, there's no reason for it that is going to ever be publicly acknowledged by the Walt Disney Corporation. And this is why people get pissed off. This is why channels like Geeks and Gamers and Nerdrotic have such a big following. And, you know, if Bob Iger's people are watching this, they might want to hear the next part of this video, because the fans, if you want to take the narrative away from Jeremy Griggs and the rest of these people, give the fans some red meat. All right? Look, we have been treated like shit by the people who work for Kennedy in her blessing, by the way, for over a decade now. Okay? We've watched everything we loved about all of George's creations get ground under the heel of social justice bullshit. And when we called him out, We were called every name you could think of. And now you wonder why people go, oh, she's not going anywhere. She's there forever. She's there till she wants to leave. Bullshit. All right? Or until she's forced to leave. All right? So why don't we get some sort of blood for this? For all the suffering the fandom has gone through. And now it's from both sides, from the Pablo Hidalgos of the world and the Jeremy Griggs of the world, spreading hate of everything because that's all they do. Why should people who want good Star Wars, who called Lucasfilm out, and then who were called out by their own compadres, who agreed with them because we were liking Boba Fett, Kenobi? Why? Why should we suffer for this? Give the fans some scalp. Give them some meat to chew on. Okay? And the next part of the video will be that.
I can't believe this. You're actually kicking me out?
Do you want me to draw you a picture?
We'd be here all night.
Get out! Well, we're waiting.
Look, like I said, we already know that the only real public humiliation that we're all going to see of Kathleen Kennedy and her husband is Steven Spielberg at the premiere of Indiana Jones 5. That's it. That's all we're going to see. So how about Mr. Iger and Mr. Bergman and Flying Horseman, Five Horsemen, give us the bloody scalps of her flying monkeys. Give us something to chew on. Something that shows you actually were listening to us. Okay, these people have made Lucasfilm look utterly fucking ridiculous. Okay? And she gave them her blessing to do so. Is it enough that you're taking away their under the table shilling with Jason Ward, etc.? No, it's not. How about give us this guy's scalp? He was the worst of all of them. Immature, angry, bitter, unprofessional, zero integrity, fanboy who never should have worked for Lucasfilm to begin with. Yet there he is. There he is. You know, don't we deserve as fans to get the idea that you actually listen to us? Because again, like I said, I know Kennedy's done. Okay, I know it. She's done. It's over. Okay, for her. But people like Jeremy Griggs, because they can make money off of the negativity, will not believe it. Or they do believe it, but they'll cynically say, no, she's still there. And what does that help? Does that help Lucasfilm regain the trust of the fans? If you're not going to give us Kennedy, because for whatever Hollywood protecting the elites and the club, reason you've got, if you're not going to give us that, even though we know she's gone, you just won't say it out loud. Give us Pablo. Give us Rayne Roberts. Give us Jennifer Heddle. Give us Phil Sostek. Give us Matt Martin. Give us these people. Give us Carrie Beck. Give us them so we know that changes have come. They're good changes, and nothing that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni is going to be undermined again. That Star Wars will be consistently good from here on out, in the manner that George would make it. Why am I saying that? Because if we hear that Pablo Hidalgo got fired, if we hear that Carrie Beck is gone, if we hear that any of those names I mentioned are gone, we will know you took us seriously. All right? And really, Ahsoka looks fantastic. But I'm going to tell you something. As long as the story group and Pablo still on Twitter, basically being the phony braggart, immature, fat fanboy that he is, I work at Lucasfilm. Of course, he's about as creative as my dog's toenail, and he's still baiting fans. He still is. All right, as long as he's still there, and we see that there's no change, Ahsoka may not do as well as it should, okay? Because, look, again, you did not, you passively, aggressively, I'm going to say, technically fired Kennedy without firing her through Steven Spielberg. But you didn't do it in a way that we see change coming, okay? The SJWs are still at Lucasfilm, maybe pretending to be good people, but in my opinion, what is past is prologue, and they will be back. They can't help themselves, all right? If you've done it before, you'll do it again, okay? It's like a man who cheats on his wife. If he does it once, he'll do it again, okay? A woman who cheats on her husband. If she does it once, she'll do it again, all right? That's it. That's what it is. And I look at it, and it's like if you give the fans news that things have changed, that whoever's going to be the creative director was able to remove a lot of people who caused really bad feelings among the fandom, who caused grudges to be made in the fandom. You will take away the narrative from the angry Black Pill YouTubers and the Black Pill blobs, okay? And you will give the rank and file something to cheer for, okay? Something to believe in. So instead of, acting like nothing is wrong while you're closing the Singapore ILM office and Pablo bragging about that, if you act like something is wrong, nothing's wrong, the fans are not going to watch what you've got, even if it's good, because they won't believe you've changed, because you didn't give people the outward sign that you have. If Rayne Roberts hasn't been fired, and she worked on The Acolyte, if Pablo Hidalgo is still there, if his wife is still there, Matt Martin, etc., all of these people need to go, and publicly, so we know you've done something, okay? That's all I'm asking. All right, if we can't have Kennedy, and I accept that, I think it's ridiculous that we have to pretend that you're pretending that nothing ever happened, even though we all know it did. If we can't have her publicly fired or forced to resign, we have to wait out her contract. Can we at least see these guys gone? All right, give the fans some red meat. This is Steph signing out. I'll see you around the galaxy.